Thanks, Lynn, and welcome everyone. And we have a webinar here about big data applications and velocity with them, specifically around VoltDB. And I'll probably take, I'll shoot for about 35 minutes of talking here. As Lynn said, please feel free to ask questions during the webinar. I prefer to make it as interactive as we can. Even given the fact that we have different technologies and limitations on what we can do through a WebEx here, but let's try to keep it as active and interactive as we possibly can. So with that, let me talk quickly about an agenda here. I'm going to talk in three very large categories. The first is big data. So what is how I've titled it here. Big data has obviously become one of those key buzzwords that we hear so much of these days, and I'll delve into that a little bit, not to bore you with the things that you may or may not have already seen, but I do want to set some groundwork and context to what we'll discuss in the following sections, as well as give you our impression of what we think big data is and why it's so important. Second area we'll talk about is how the architectures of today's data systems are really changing significantly because of these changes of big data. It's not going to be the grandfather's database system where we have a one-size-fits-all database providing all the functionalities an enterprise or a startup even would need within a data high velocity or high throughput, high volume data system, but it's going to require specialized engines. We'll talk about that. And then the last section is I'll talk in some level of detail about how one addresses the velocity piece of a big data application, specifically within the context of what VoltDB is and what it does. And I imagine that's probably where we'll get the most questions, but again, feel free to interject wherever we are, and I'm happy to address those questions as they come up. So big data, so what? That's really the big question that I wanted to address in the beginning part of this webinar. And I think the interesting fact here is that the world really is changing significantly. And what does big data mean? Well, there's quite a few definitions, and we'll talk about some of them. But I think at the end of the day, I think we'd all probably agree that when it comes down to it, it's more data is coming at us, and it's faster decisions, faster data, more of it from more places, from more people, from more sensors, and we're looking at that data and trying to get deeper insights. And the real question becomes, how do you take advantage of that? How do you drive that data into being critical business value within your organization? And the companies that are able to do that are the ones that are really showing promise for winning the future. And there's no shortage of articles and commentaries around companies that are really doing a great job of this, and companies that are faltering at it. And when you look at some of the companies that are really taking the limelight today, companies like Splunk or LinkedIn or Facebook, what you're starting to really see is companies that are able to take a competitive advantage because of their use of data in the enterprise. And that data can come in many forms, and we'll talk some more about that in a little bit. But when we talk about these applications, I have listed 10, 15 here at the bottom, but the reality is that this is a count. There's an infinite number of opportunities here to take advantage of large amounts of data. So people are using big data applications to better target customers, to gain information and knowledge on mobile applications and usage within mobile applications, on better calculating risk within capital markets, on managing identity. We even have some uses in some of the government agencies where people are using very fast applications and big data applications to identify terrorist threats and bad guys doing bad things, as they like to refer to. So what you see from this is just a very large spectrum of opportunities that exist in all of our businesses. It's not just in specific markets and specific verticals, but it is across the board, and it's coming at varying speeds and varying stages, and we'll talk some more about that in a little bit.